atmosphere at the Brentford Community Stadium on Friday night and how brilliant they made it, how brilliant Thomas Frank was, and what a performance from Brentford as well to open up clean sheet and a win against a traditionally giant side from the Premier League, Arsenal. They couldn't have wished for a better start to Premier League life. Fantastic for them. But what about the Gunners? Because actually, before we crack on with this, Andy Townsend, you can help me out here, because I know there's been a lot of cynicism over Aubameyang and Lacazette being out ill. That's all we were told, ill. That's why they missed out on Friday night. From a player's point of view, if you turn up for pre-match and you have your meet before you go off to the ground or whatever, and you're told the captain's out ill and his fellow striker's out ill, what are you thinking?
Well, look, if there's ill, there's feeling unwell, and then there's being ill. But if you've got something that
if you've
got a stomach bug,
right.
If you've got a stomach bug, Aid, and you've been sitting on the loo for 24 hours before a game, you're not in any fit state to play. And also, that could just end up spreading around the dressing room. You could end up giving that to others, and all of a sudden you've got 6 or 7 boys out with a nasty stomach virus or something of that nature.
So all those that are instantly cynical about it might actually be genuine.
Oh, yeah, of course it could be genuine. It could be genuine. Now, it's unbelievably unfortunate that you got two of your biggest hitters that are going to miss the first day. 2 key players, two big personalities, you'd like to think, in that dressing room. So to miss them. And when I look at the Arsenal team, when I actually look at the team that took the field, that is not, I don't believe, an Arsenal team that we're going to see an awful lot more of.
Let me just run through the 11. Leno, Chambers at right back, White and Pablo Mari at centre half, Tierney at left back, Samuel Lokonga and Xhaka, the 2 in midfield, then Pepe, Smith Rowe, Martinelli behind Balogun up front.
Yeah, I mean, when that team would have come into the Brentford dressing room, I guarantee you Thomas Frank would have said, I fancy us here. I fancy we can turn that team over. I think Smith Rowe played well, apparently. I was travelling, I didn't see the game. But everyone tells me that he played well, as did Kieran Tierney. Again, was ambitious and up that left-hand side and always looks a threat when he gets to the top of the field. But again, same old questions. You mentioned same old Arsenal. My same old question will be, I look at that team that starts at the back and I think Ben White very early, is he a leader, Ben White? Is he a leader? Is he someone that can go into Arsenal and go and lead like Thiago Silva has done since he's gone at Chelsea? Of course not, because they're at very different polar opposites in terms of where they are in their careers. Ben White, this is very early days. Everything's happened for Ben White very quickly. So for him to go in there and start to try and be the boss, the man at the back, he's in there alongside Pablo Mari. Again, I've seen him a few times. I've seen him play decent sometimes. Other times he looks a bit vulnerable. Callum Chambers, with respects to Callum, again, he's been around a long time now. I'm not seeing a player that is improving. The kid tries, 100%, full marks for all of that, but you need more than that. If you're Arsenal, you need more than that. And just looking at that team, I don't think that's a team that frightens anyone. No, and I this is where I start to question Mikel Arteta. You can look at the recruitment and Edu and how that process is governed by the football club. So you can look above Arteta and ask questions, absolutely. You can also look at the players and ask why they're not playing, some of them, to the capability. But you've got to ask questions of Mikel Arteta. Chambers at right back. When on the bench, he had Cedric, who is an orthodox right back. He had Bellerin, who isn't a fan's favourite, but is an orthodox right back. You've even got Maitland-Niles, who's capable of playing in that position as well. Bukayo Saka was on the bench. He can play in that position as well, if pushed. But you've got 2 orthodox right backs there. Yeah. And he's gone with Chambers, who you could say was at fault for the first goal. Doesn't get tight enough, doesn't do enough to stop the shot coming in from Sergio Canos. But you've seen the goals and you've seen the second goal. You don't need to watch the game. No. All you need to do is watch that second goal to know what Arsenal were all about. They had nothing about them. There was no leadership, as you say. Nobody saying, right, that ball's going nowhere near the net. I'm ballooning it up the other end of the pitch. I'm putting my boot through that. So I think there's all sorts of questions to ask in terms of the commitment and leadership of the club. I would have just thought, with where Arsenal find themselves right now, every coach in the Premier League would love to pick players that aren't ready, that aren't available, that aren't quite fit enough, whatever. I do think some of the managers of today get so hung up on listening to the science behind every one of their players, and he's not quite there yet. They have all these people around them. I've spoke to Premier League managers about this, about the sports science teams that sometimes they're like almost dictating policy at your club on who plays and who trains and who does this and who does that. Hold on a minute. You know, the manager always retains the right to say, I need him out on the training ground today, or I want him to start today. I want him to, can he give me an hour? Tell me that. Can he get through that first half and give me to the 60th minute, and then I'll make a change? It's like now all of a sudden you've got the tail wagging the dog here. You've got these sports science peoples, these very sophisticated departments are now, I believe sometimes too often telling managers they haven't got this player, they haven't got that player. If it gets to 2 weeks before a cup final, believe you me, the manager will start taking the ball by the horns. But for this first game of the season, every manager always, they bend and they concede almost, I think, to some of these departments in their club. And whether that's the case for Mikel Arteta, but I don't understand, you quite rightly point out, you've got Cedric and Bellerin, I believe, two better equipped right backs to go in and play that first game. And maybe one or two others on that bench as well. You know, Bukayo Saka's had a big summer, had an emotional summer too. So there's been a lot of learning for that young man. Arguably Arsenal's best player last season, I think he was. Yeah, he was. Their best player last season. Get him in there for the first game. Get him back out on the field because there's no better place to go and eradicate any lingering thoughts of the summer that you've still got. Get him out on that field and let him go and strut his stuff. Go and play with Smith Rowe. Go and take him on. Go and show us what you're all about, son. And I'm sure he would have done. But it's like now they got to be 100% ready. You know what? As a player, you're hardly ever 100% aid. You're hardly ever absolutely, totally happy with your body when you take to the field, honestly. You're always running out there with something that's niggling away at you. And yet, these first few matches of the season, it's like the manager. Oh,
there's other examples, isn't there?
There are.
And we'll get into them. The question we need to ask is whether you trust the process if you're an Arsenal fan. Does anybody see Mikel Arteta turning it around, making a really good job of managing Arsenal Football Club? And I look at, what is the strategy? What is the joined up thinking when Xhaka is signing a new contract, starting in that first game, had a brilliant Euros, but was on his way out. He was talking about living in Rome and learning Italian. And now all of a sudden he's staying at Arsenal. So do they want him or not? Is he there because he hasn't gone somewhere else but they don't really want him? And if that's the case, why is he playing? Does anybody really know what's going on? When you've got Kieran Tierney, who is brilliant going forward, but does that leave you more vulnerable at the back? And if it does, Pablo Mari on the same side as Kieran Tierney on that left-hand side, that's a weakness. Is Martinelli going to be working back enough as a young professional who's trying to find his way, trying to prove himself at the top end of the pitch? He's on that left-hand side of the three. Is he going to be helping Tierney? So if all of a sudden the move breaks down and Brentford clear it, are you left short at the back because Tierney's getting too far forward? Does he think about these things enough? Has he got enough? Has he been in that Man City bubble where everything's so comfortable, where the football's so good because the players are the best? You're not having to work with players who need coaching way more than any others you've ever worked with. Was the job just too big for him? If he'd gone to his old club Rangers or even Everton, Mikel Arteta, would that have been, maybe not Everton, but if he'd gone to Rangers, would that have been a better move for him? Is this too much too soon?
I do think as an assistant to Pep, you can take so many of those ideas with you, and so many of those, so much of that logic that he applies to Man City's team, you can take it with you, but you can't apply it to a club like Arsenal with the players that they have in this particular time. I don't think you can. I think there's too much thought about the process, too much thought about the philosophy, not enough thought about can we go and win the next game, the one in front of us, the first game of the season. Can we settle everybody down by going and winning it? Yeah. Or am I going to pick a team that's debatable, highly questionable, might end up getting beat, and is going to pile pressure on the group of players going in to the next game and the one after that? I think, again, look, there's too much of this philosophy sometimes and the way we have to go about it. Do you know what was great to see at the weekend, with the fans coming back in? I didn't see too much rolling it around at the back, going back to the goalkeeper, he's put his foot on it, going back out to the fullback, going back to the goalie, to the centre. You know why? Because the fans want it. They want a bit of urgency. They want to see the ball delivered. Want to get it forward. And I think they need to absolutely start adopting, I think, more of a mindset of that very next game that's in front of us. We got to be more determined to win that.
The process is definitely flawed. There's no question.